Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Robert Stickle. I'm also joined by my colleague Jim Patterson. Jim will be today's presenter and will discuss the topic of Come See the Future of Microsoft PPM, Realizing Microsoft's Vision Using the Project Accelerator and OnePlan. This webinar is a new addition to our series of adaptive webinars, so if you enjoy this video, feel free to watch the others that we have available on our website. And as always, I hope that today's presentation grants you some insight into the world of project and portfolio management and gets you excited for the new developments happening within the industry and here at OnePlan. Thank you again. I'll now turn the presentation over to Jim.
Thanks, Robert, and welcome everybody. We're excited to give you this topic here today on the future of Microsoft PPM and how OnePlan is involved in that. The real message here, as you see on this cover slide, is the future is now. These things are here today, can be implemented. We have a number of customers that are already implementing this in a very successful fashion. So with that, let's get started. So what is Microsoft's modern work management vision? Well, in a nutshell, the high-level points are that teams get to work the way they want, but executives get the results that they need. The idea in the modern workplace, the dynamics have changed and what expectations are and the needs are of the worker, as well as the needs of the executive. And Microsoft Project has been reimagined so it can better empower companies to achieve better results by aligning investments with projects and resources, working with agility and flexibility, and then be able to collaborate and do things like co-author globally and use consistent tools that are available to us in the Microsoft Cloud Platform. It goes well beyond the old days of just Microsoft Project on the desktop. So we won't go into all this today, but from a modern work management perspective, work is happening everywhere all the time, and we end up losing track because people are using different tools, they're in different locations, and they're not co-located all the time, especially in this day of remote work. From a versatility perspective, the teams want to choose the tools that they want to work with because they're using different methodologies. Maybe they're a more agile team that needs more agile tools, or maybe they're more waterfall in nature, some hybrid, or maybe they're doing more unstructured work. From an intuitive perspective, we have more and more of what we call the casual PM or the accidental PM who is not a formally trained project manager, but gets dubbed to play the role of project manager in situations in their organization. And they need tools that are effective, but simple to use and easy to get started with. And then business processes cut across functions and systems, so we need to collaborate across different parts of the organization. So these are the types of challenges we want to address in this modern work management landscape. So Microsoft's future vision, a couple of years ago at Inspire, Microsoft announced that they plan to reimagine Project and end their investments in Project Online, which is the been traditionally the PPM solution for Microsoft by default. And in that, they have not given any dates yet, but they said that they strongly encourage customers to plan the transition into this new world, knowing that this is not the overall future and that there's no more investment going into the older platform. So with that, we're going to talk to you about what that new platform looks like and what the capabilities are that are available today. So if we think about, we've been in this Microsoft Project and Project Online world, and Project Online provides PPM capabilities in a SharePoint or SharePoint Online environment. If that's changing, where are we going to? Well, for traditional PPM, more or less, we're going into the new project for the web, which is based on the Power Platform and leveraging Power Apps. We'll talk about that in more detail, but very conducive to the more traditional PPM type of use cases. For more customer-facing projects, professional services organizations with customer-facing billable projects, the Dynamics world does have project operations, which leverages some aspects of Project for the web, but a specific use case for those folks is available in the Dynamics offerings with that project operations piece. We're going to focus today on the top right portion here with Project for the web and Power Apps, given that that's the more common PPM transition people seem to be making. So what do we mean by Project for the web? For those of you who are not familiar with it yet, it really is providing Microsoft Project in a simple yet more powerful way to go in browser-based, easy to get started capabilities. As you can see in this animated screen of Project for the web, there's flexible ways to work with this in boards like a Kanban, like lists like you see up here, working it more like a spreadsheet, or even in traditional Gantt charts. And working with data here in browser-based capabilities that don't require a heavy or fat client like Microsoft Project Professional does to this day. The key is to be able to have a fresh new experience with a modern UI, make collaboration easy, and provide an innovative platform for people to get the results that they're looking for. So this new Microsoft PPM project for the web is built on the Power Platform. The Power Platform includes things that you may already be using in your organization. There's Power BI that people are using for business analytics and dashboarding and reporting. There's Power Automate that people use for business process and workflow automation, as well as light connection between other tool sets. There's Power Apps, which is the low-code, no-code platform for fashioning your own applications very simply within the Microsoft Cloud. And Project for the Web fits into this. It all leverages on the back end a robust database repository called Dataverse. Some of you may have been used to calling it the Common Data Service, maybe even a year ago. But this Dataverse repository gives you a repository for which you can enterprise applications and have a lot of things interacting with one another throughout your solutions. Now, going into a new direction and a new platform, since Project Online was based on a SharePoint foundation, this is now based on a Dataverse and Power Platform foundation. Just be assured that this is where Microsoft's headed. Satya Nadella himself said this is one of the cores to what the company is doing, and that Power Platform is part of their strategic direction. So if you're considering doing this, just be aware that you're going in a direction that Microsoft's going as well. So those of you that may have looked at Project for the Web by itself may have seen it as a standalone scheduling tool that you just open up in your browser. And very simply, it may be that for some people that just want to do a random project here and there. But the difference, instead of saving this to random files across your desktop or on your desktop or on your laptop, it is storing all of the project data by default in this Dataverse repository. Now, you could just use that as a repository to access and open these projects if you want individually, but the real power comes from making these into full-blown solutions. And by the leveraging of Power Apps, you can actually have a PPM solution with a portfolio of projects that's readily available to you, different data elements that you might not have in just a schedule, like dates, durations, and who's assigned, and those types of things, all the characteristics around the projects, etc. And that's available to us because we have a robust database repository where all that data resides in Dataverse. Now, even though Power Apps is a low-code, no-code platform that allows non-developers to build their own applications, not everyone has the appetite to start from scratch. And hence, the Project for the Web Accelerator, known as the Project Accelerator or the PPM Accelerator, was created. And OnePlan Solutions, we're proud to say that we were enlisted by Microsoft to build this accelerator that's available as part of your project licensing at no additional charge. It provides additional capabilities that really launches Project for the Web more from a standalone scheduling tool into more of a portfolio solution. And we'll talk about the components on that today. So if we think about just Project for the Web by itself as a web-based scheduling tool, you can create projects, you can create your tasks and your work breakdown structures, all of the things you'd expect to do in a Microsoft project tool. But by adding the accelerator to the mix, which is a Power Apps pre-configured solution, you add, and the ones in the purple are what's being added by Power Apps. You can then start having tables or entities in there for things like issues and risks, change requests, status reports that include narrative, maybe some governance process, and even KPIs to let you know how you're tracking on these types of things across at a portfolio level. You also have the ability to do project requests or have an intake capability that allows you to vet ideas or project requests before you promote them into a project portfolio. And they can be promoted into a project portfolio. And also being able to aggregate projects into logically grouped programs, whether they be programs based upon organization, by service or product type. However you define what a program is, you're able to do those aggregations and carry data at a program level that you can't do if you're just working with an individual single project file. And across all this today, we're going to see that there's a out-of-the-box feed and a standard report pack to start with in Power BI for your dashboards and reporting, which come as a natural output of just working on this solution within Project for the Web and the Project Accelerator. So these are the core components that come with the accelerator. So, for example, that intake and request, to be able to have a request list to capture the data you would like, as well as analytics or reporting around that to help analyze what those requests are. Program management, to look at aggregations of projects into a program-centric view both from a tool perspective and in the reporting in Power BI. Your project management, like we said in Project for the Web, may be working this in more grid views or board views or in more timeline or Gantt views. Risk logs to allow you to capture risks and characterize them and capture information about those in their resolution or monitoring them, and having reports and risk matrices that are created automatically for you based upon those risks. Same thing with issue management, being able to look at issues and have a log of those across individual projects or report across those across all projects to understand what we're dealing with across our entire portfolio. Change requests, something that's very key within project management, portfolio management, be able to log those, put them through an approval process, and get reporting and visibility onto what those are and where they stand. And status reports, being able to capture data. For example, status report might be partially populated by objective data points that are in the solution already, but then you might want to have to capture narrative around things like what you accomplished and planned activities, and maybe additional comments about obstacles or blockers that you're facing. And the idea is to have that all come together and be able to store those on a time-phased basis and incrementally have different status report outputs for each reporting period. And then overall, the Accelerator report pack, and we'll demonstrate some of that here today with different reports that come as a natural output of the process using standard Power BI capabilities, but leveraging the data from the Project for the Web and the Accelerator itself. The other part of it is being able to access Project for the Web via Teams. Being a collaborative tool, it is a Teams app, so you can add Project for the Web to any particular team. So that's an important aspect for people that are using Teams more and more today in these Microsoft shops as their collaborative platform for both posts, sharing of content, meetings, and all the things that are people having, be able to have access to the Project for the Web capabilities. Even the Accelerator capabilities from within here is powerful as we collaborate with others. And the key here is managing your work with confidence. Everything we're going to be talking about here today is provided via the Microsoft Cloud, meaning you get enterprise-grade performance, you get the ability to get the right access levels for your people with your licensing, and the security you get with the Microsoft Cloud is a trusted cloud environment that people use today, that you're using for your general productivity with Microsoft 365. Now, the Project Accelerator with Project for the Web by itself does a job for people, and it could be a good fit as is, maybe with some minor modifications for a great number of users out there. But when we talk to the analysts like Gartner, and through our conversations with our customers themselves, there's critical capabilities for project and portfolio management that may not be there out of the box. For example, maybe people want to do timesheets. Maybe people want to do more detailed financial planning and tracking. Maybe people want to do time-phased resource capacity planning, or maybe more advanced project portfolio management includes things like what-if scenarios and things like that. Some of these things that they were actually used to having potentially in their use of Project Online, for example. And the analysts are talking very strongly about the PPM market is moving strongly into SPM, or strategic portfolio management, meaning not replacing PPM, but really expanding the different dimensions that factor into your portfolio management and the management of that portfolio over time. There's a strategic portion of that. There's an execution portion of that, and there's a technology portion of that that all intersect. For example, business leaders are fashioning strategies and communicating those to the organization. And then we're executing on projects and initiatives that support the achievement of those strategies and those visions that the business leaders are having. And then there's the technology component and assets and applications that we have that have to be factored into the mix for us to be able to deliver on many of these more digital projects in this digital world today. And I would say it's not replacing PPM, but the discipline of PPM is actually getting more sophisticated and have more dimensions to it. So you can see in Gartner's hype cycle, strategic portfolio management is making the climb up through those initial stages of the innovation trigger, and it's going to enhance and bring additional value and capabilities to PPM over the years. And here today, between what we have with the Microsoft technologies we're going to show you here today and OnePlan, OnePlan will help enable the vision in here as you see fit. You don't have to take advantage of all these things at once. It is a journey for folks, but just be aware if you go down this direction, there's capabilities and a lot of headroom in the solution that you can grow into all of these areas if that's what you would aspire to. So if we think about OnePlan, and OnePlan we have as a implementer of the Microsoft technologies, we also have some value-added technology or IP that helps extend all these capabilities seamlessly. As I had mentioned, we did create the accelerator for Microsoft, but maybe people want to add strategy execution. Maybe people want to add additional portfolio management capabilities. People want to maybe do more sophisticated prioritization and what-if analysis on making those selections, detailed financials or resource capacity planning, or even perhaps even have central places to report time, or even have central my work areas where people can report status on all their projects, on all their work and initiatives, all their issues, all their tasks, any work item at all that gets assigned to them in one singular place. And that's possible with right now the capabilities that OnePlan provides you today. On top of that, Project for the Web and the accelerator was built specifically to use Project for the Web as its scheduling engine. But there are also people out there that have demands for using other execution tools. For example, there's a strong contingent of people that still use Project Professional or the Project Desktop software that have robust needs or a lot of time and effort invested into building those plans. Project for the Web obviously is native to this solution, but maybe people are doing agile projects in Azure DevOps or maybe Jira or some other tool sets. And be able to accommodate this through connectors that bring these things into a common portfolio is one of the many value adds that OnePlan brings to this landscape. So if we think about the power of choice, and this is a very Microsoft-centric view, and we think about OnePlan enhancing the accelerator with some additional portfolio management capabilities and also additional connector capabilities, so we can bring in not only the Project for the Web plans, but we can bring Project Online Desktop or Project Professional plans, Azure DevOps plans, Jira plans, etc., or even manage some of those plans directly in OnePlan itself. The idea is this power of choice, which is part of the Microsoft vision, we help fulfill that by having these connectors. So additional OnePlan capabilities to what we were describing in the screens I showed you early on is portfolio planning with what-if analysis, resource capacity planning that's consistent across all of the projects, regardless of what tool we're executing those on, detailed financial planning and tracking, and the execution tools that can bring in different tool sets, not just Project for the Web, or not just Azure DevOps, but other tools that feed into either waterfall plans or into more sprint-based backlogs that you have in your more agile plans, as well as adding things like time tracking and work statusing right to the mix. So some of the things that we're going to talk about adding to that mix today is strategic portfolios, being able to put in like objectives and key results and be able to execute on a strategic plan. The ability to then take that strategic plan and be able to align them with your project portfolio so that we can make sure that we have good alignment, making sure that we're working on the right things and prioritizing things according to the organization's strategy. Portfolio visibility across all work, meaning not just a portfolio of Project for the Web plans, but portfolio that might have different scheduling tools or execution tools that are feeding into that portfolio, including the ones that we talked about and even things like Microsoft Office 365 Planner. More advanced portfolio prioritization with good scoring and selection. Being able to have portfolio Kanban boards to work with it in a more agile fashion, maybe for those agile shops that want to do program increment or PI planning. Portfolio tree hierarchy, so we can build our structures the way we would like to and have our projects fit underneath those as we see fit. Consistent resource capacity planning, whether we're planning in hours or FTEs or percentages of allocation across generic or named individuals. Even enabling resource negotiations if you want to have a formal process for the byplay between project organizations and resource or functional organizations that have to supply those resources for negotiation. Resource prioritization, saying, do we have the resources that we need to fulfill on the portfolio that we're thinking of doing, or do we have to unselect lower priority projects or move things out in time and evaluate these as what-if scenarios? Financial tracking with detailed cost categories and tracking even budgets and revised forecasts and actuals, even forecast benefits and revenue, and basically look at those in the detailed fashion in the categories that make sense for our organization, possibly even for integration with your financial system. And having prioritization and what-ifs using the financial constraints as opposed to just the resource constraints we saw just earlier. And in insights, having a place where team members can go as their entry point into the solution where they can see what requires their attention, what is overdue, what's coming up, what conversations have been had on the tasks and the projects that they're involved in, and easy access to the projects that they're specifically involved in, so they don't have to just navigate through an entire large portfolio to access their projects. And in my work area, place where I, as a participant in these projects or work elements in this portfolio, can go and just see all the things that have been assigned to me. Doesn't matter if it's a task or a backlog item or an issue or whatever it might be. Have one place to go to see what's on my plate, help me prioritize what I should be working on, and provide feedback on completion status and where things are at, including things like comments and notes and other things like that you might want to provide. And then the timesheets we talked about, be able to provide a time reporting mechanism for the companies that need to do that, whether it be for billing or capitalization or chargebacks. And the integrations that we're talking about, we're not talking about the old days where we're writing one-off code to actually fashion these things. We actually have built-in connectors in our OnePlan, OneConnect platform that a bunch of them are pre-built and they're easily fashioned for additional ones in these genres, whether they be agile tools or financial systems or service management tools or CRM systems or other tools like that. Bringing that data into a common hub in OnePlan is something that we do on a routine basis. So with that, I thought I would go over to a demonstration and show you how this all works in action. So Microsoft PPM Accelerator for Project for the Web is, once again, a Power Apps solution that's pre-built. And it's meant to connect automatically to your Microsoft Project for the Web use within the organization that you reside. So for example, the base accelerator that we show here, what you get out of the box with the accelerator has a number of different entities. So you can see over here in the navigation to the left, I've got projects, I've got programs, I've got project requests, resources, and reports. And what I thought I would do is go through this a little bit to show you what you get in the base solution. For example, in the projects area, I have a list of projects, all of which were published from Project for the Web in this case. And in this case, I have a list of projects and a view that maybe gives me more KPI views on overall health, schedule health, et cetera, and some particular data elements that I've chosen for this view. But you can fashion in this thing a variety of different views that you might want. So this is my active projects. But maybe if I wanted to look at this from the financial data that we're capturing around this and understand how we're doing with budgets and actuals and remaining forecasts, or if I want to look at this just from an overall status perspective and look at these things with the fields of data, you can fashion your own views and extend this even beyond what you get out of the box here to look at the list of projects or the portfolio of projects in a variety of different ways. I go back to my active projects, and you want to go and drill into an individual project in here, and I'll choose this CRO customer journey project. The things that you get out of the box with the accelerator goes beyond just having the schedule that I was showing you in the slides in Project for the Web. For example, having a summary page with all the data, metadata, and characteristics around this project that you may want to capture, that is at the portfolio level. Categorizing these things by like who owns it and what business unit are we doing this for, what state is it in, additional data like that. And other ones you might want to add, you may have your own fields of data. You might have region or location or other things that make sense for your business. The idea is it's highly configurable beyond this with the data elements that you capture in here, but this summary entity is what you do get out of the box. It includes objective data, which gives you a current snapshot of how we're doing on things like schedule and effort and financials and benefits and such. We also have the ability to bring forward, and I'll show a little later on, the business case or project requests. So for example, if we have business case data that was captured in the business request when we promote this to a project, or even we just initiated here, we can put narratives around that, maybe even put prioritization schemes in with a calculated prioritization score based upon those things. Now, obviously the tasks, those would be the schedule from Project for the Web. But in this case, this simple schedule I'm going to show you here is just one dimension of the project information that we have, as opposed to just having a schedule in and of itself and looking at that. I'm now looking at it in the context of a bunch of other project related information. Won't do a demonstration of Project for the Web here by itself today. We've got some other on-demand videos if you want to see that out on our website and our YouTube channel. But the idea is that this is just one component of the overall accelerator at this point for simple schedules. Now, the other things you might want to capture here, like an issue or a risk log, be able to, do things like, put a new risk in place and capture the data elements you might want around that. Be able to capture, general information and characterizations of that. Be able to, assess probability and impact and exposure or cost or schedule exposure. Maybe a description of the risk and maybe what mitigation or contingency plans that you have. The idea here would be that you capture a log of these across those and be able to manage those across and even assign those to people for monitoring. Same thing holds true with an issues log. You capture the things specific to those issues. Or change requests, where you come in and actually log the changes and even put them through maybe an approval cycle, so you have a list of approved changes on top of what you originally planned for. And as you go into any one of these particular changes, for example, you can come in and see the information you might capture around those, and the narrative might be a bit different than you would have for an issue or a risk. And once again, these are further configurable to add fields of data that you might want to capture around these. Also, the status reports, the combination of objective data that you might capture right from the system itself for what you're executing on within this project, but also be able to create a new status report that actually has the narrative that you might want around that, or any other fields of data you might want to capture on this that people can view here within the system, or because it's in the Dataverse, it's readily consumable in your Power BI reporting so you can share it with other people outside of the user base within this solution itself. So in the projects area, those are the entities and the tables that you do get within the accelerator out of the box. Now, to go up to, say, a program level and decide what it is that you want to track as programs, which might be logically grouped things. They might be by product line or by parts of the organization, or however you define that in your organization. But these are entities in and of themselves. So within the program, I might be capturing things like program roll-up data on how we're doing on the overall program start and finish. I might have program financials that are looking at the member projects. And I might have program benefits of which the projects are consuming that budget, and I can see how much remaining budget, for example, I might have left. I might look at status of the overall program, that is a multi-project view of that, and that would be based upon the projects that are members of this particular program. As you can see, I have a number of different projects that are feeding into this program, all of which have their own budgets and consuming costs and those types of things, and be able to track data here at a program level. Now, even before these become projects or programs, you might want to capture these things as project requests. So these project requests allow you to come in here and capture data around things you might consider doing. And this is where you might have an initial set of data you capture. You might put some business case narrative around here that might carry forth to the project eventually. You might even have your own prioritization scoring in here. This is just an example here of how you might align, how well this thing strategically aligns, and how well it might lower costs or increase revenue, or is it going to improve employee retention, or is it going to help us on the risk factor? And what you select here would change that prioritization score and the things you capture around that. And then at some point, you're going to, through workflow or somebody with the right approval, move this into an approved state and have this get promoted with all the data carried forth into this project portfolio. And I believe, as we see here, this one was approved and actually came forth into the project portfolio over here in my active projects. Now, from a reporting perspective, you do get a base report pack with this accelerator with Project for the Web. And with the combination of schedule level data within an individual project and the requests that you have within here, you get all kinds of reports that are fed natively by an OData feed to this report pack. For example, the requests that we saw, we can maybe characterize these and look at a list of those and maybe analyze them a little better than just within a list within that grouping. So for example, I might come in here and say, what security related requests we have, and some of them are they like higher, moderate or critical priority, and what are those? Where do they fit into a realm of benefits versus prioritization, and what's the data around those things, and help me select the projects that I should be working on. And I can slice those by different slicers I add in here, like by what state they're in, or by what priority, what project type they are, etc. And the idea here is you can fashion and do some analytics here. We can get information regarding program health at a program level, or maybe program level financials. Or maybe we want to look at things from a more of a portfolio level health and understand how the overall projects are going across the overall portfolio, or maybe even a dashboard of how we're doing on progress on our different projects and maybe what we have that's overdue and how much of that is affecting this project. We might have portfolio financials that we just pulling the financial data, portfolio timeline data where we can see where things are at and share this information with people that aren't hands-on within the tool itself, but we want to communicate this to our stakeholders or maybe our external users. And even things like milestones or aggregations of our risks and issues and changes that we showed you. Those things are all available to us here and have these reports as a natural output of working through the process. And even individuals can come down here and basically take a look at their individual work. So if I'm here as Daniel Williams, this fictional resource that I'm in as, I can come in here and take a look at just in this Power BI report, the things that are appropriate to me and the things that I'm working on. So by no means is this meant to be a comprehensive view of all these reports, but just to give you a flavor of the types of things that come out of this as a natural output. So with that, we talked in the slides about the base accelerator here and adding OnePlan to the mix. And so what I have here in this environment is the ability to say, well, let me add OnePlan to this mix. And OnePlan was designed to seamlessly add into what we did with the accelerator. And in this accelerator, you can see there's a lot more navigation choices here on the left-hand side. One of the things, for example, if I add OnePlan is instead of just that list of projects, I get access to an analyzer for the portfolio itself that gives me some more flexible capabilities to enhance what we're doing with that portfolio level data. For example, our flexible level views in here to be able to look at our portfolio either in plain lists or be able to look at them in, program level hierarchies right here within a more graphical view here to expand and contrast these types of things. Be able to look at these things in terms of board views, where we're looking at more agile boards that have views that might look at them by different parameters and have columns and swim lanes in here, much like in a roadmap board that you might like. And then actually speaking of roadmaps, having roadmap views that are a natural output of this process and be able to look at roadmaps that are based upon the real data within the system. And these types of data are just what is in the system, but we're providing additional capabilities and utilization around this data that you can work with. Now, in this project summary, the other piece I'd like to say here is people often want to do what-if analysis, and they want to do maybe some scenario modeling around their portfolios. And in that case, we'll talk about resource capacity planning in a minute, but let's just say you have resource capacity plans built, or you have budgets and financial plans built. How do we pick a portfolio that fits within the constraints of our resources and or our budgets? For example, if I'm looking at a potential portfolio now and I go into a what-if mode here, I am now saying, if I was going to do all the projects up here, see the checkboxes that are contemplated in this portfolio, this is the resource requirements that we have. And it looks like right now, I'm not over allocated in this portfolio. So I really don't have to do much here. On the other hand, if I was over allocated, I could do things like take my lower priority projects and I could say, let me deselect those and it would re-rack and show me what that would require down below here. I might get rid of some red, yellow, greens. If I go into the scenario here, I can actually save this as a what-if scenario and say, let me look at this as a potential option. Another scenario might be a combination of deselecting projects and saying, maybe on some of these proposed projects, I might want to take this and I might want to say, maybe I'd delay this out a quarter and let that re-rack down here and save this as a scenario of combined selection and maybe time phasing of my projects. And we can do those same types of things with our budget. So if we're building time phase budgets in here, we can do the same type of what-if scenarios with financial targets as well as resource constraints. Now, as we go into the projects themselves, some of the things that we add to the mix right within the accelerator itself, because we showed you the accelerator within a particular project, but let me go back into the CRO customer journey. And by adding the OnePlan capabilities into the mix, we can come in here and actually add capabilities in here that extend what is provided out of the box in the accelerator. For example, on the financial side, instead of just capturing some lump sum values that we saw up here, we can add a detailed financial planner into the mix so that we can track by detailed cost categories and by cost types, the types of information we want regarding the budget. So in this case, for people that want to do more detailed financial tracking, be able to define your cost categories, be able to track things on a time phase basis, maybe by budgets or forecasts and actuals and benefits, be able to compare, say, budget versus forecast and look at how we're doing across those things is a capability that we add with this time-phased financial planner. The same thing holds true with resources. If you want to do time-phased resource capacity planning, we add that to the mix. So as opposed to just looking at these things from a high-level resource plan, we can plan both generic and named individuals in here within a plan, and we can plan in either hours or FTEs or percentages at a high level depending on what you want, and say this is the requirement that we have. And as we look at this within the application, we can start factoring in our resource constraints around this as well. What's nice about this is when we start adding these capabilities into the mix, we can actually look at overall resource plans for the entire organization. So as we build that up on a project by project basis, I can look at something like this and say, okay, now across the organization, what is Daniel Williams on? And I see I've got him on a couple projects. I can see that I have some developer generically here that I put in here, and I still haven't put a name to these things yet. And I have to actually figure out who's going to do this work and have tools in here to be able to say, you know, I've got to figure out who's going to work on this pandemic awareness project. And if I look at that, I can say, who are some of the available resources, or maybe even find best matches for that and see that there's people that might be available, like Adam here, who I could replace up here by just doing a simple replacement and finding the right resources to make those matches here and replacements to help level out the resource demands. Whether I'm replacing a generic with a named individual or maybe relieving an overloaded individual with somebody who has more bandwidth. So that resource planning is available to us within here. On top of that, the ability to add that My Work capability that I talked about earlier on, being able to come in here and to say, me as an individual contributor, what's on my plate? And for example, here I can see I've got all these different projects in here. And within those projects, I see I've got project tasks and other work items that are assigned to me here across multiple projects. And I can provide updates in here by doing something like checking the box to complete the task, or by updating dates if I'm allowed to do that, or just updating percent completes into the mix. And I can also provide things like notes that are going into the task record, or comment threads that are going to show up in the system that as I collaborate with other people. Or I can even build my own to-dos that are subordinate to these tasks, so I can build tasks and to-dos for myself that I can then work with on more of a punch list or Kanban item, so that I can keep track of these things myself on top of what I need to do in order to say I've completed these types of things. So with that, the My Work allows me to look at that from a variety of different perspectives. Here it's grouped by project, but maybe I want to look at things by when things are due or by what their priority are. And I can really focus in here across multiple projects as, God, geez, I have all kinds of stuff that's overdue here across multiple projects, and let me tackle these things and establish my priorities. The other piece is a timesheet. So if you want to actually, in your organization, have a timesheet, we have a timesheet that's actually fed by the project planning data, and we can report time against those. These things can preload into your timesheet based upon the tasks and the plans that you're working on, or if you allow it, you can allow people to add projects into the timesheet and select the tasks within that project that they can add to that particular timesheet and fill in the grid, and even put notes of explanation across the things that are entered, and full approval process by project and resource managers in here as well. Now, the last piece I'm going to talk about regarding the additions that OnePlan brings to the mix is the ability to come into something like this and go into the analyzer. And the first example I showed you had nothing but project for the web plans in it. Well, in this work the way you want and with the tools you want, the power of choice message, which is part of Microsoft's vision, the idea of being able to go into a portfolio and instead of just having project for the web as the source showing up in here, notice I've got now a portfolio that's doing a number of things. I have a portfolio that is showing a plan that's using Project Professional on the desktop and is connected to a Teams site. I have one that's using Jira. I have one that's using Azure DevOps. I have one that's connected to a SharePoint site. This one's using Project for the web. And I might even have ones that are just using OnePlan by itself in here without being connected to a different scheduling tool. The key is that these connectors allow us to have the flexibility to work the way we want. And these dynamic connectors actually allow us to connect to, say, a project within this. And I'll just finish with this. If I go into a work plan, and I talked about the different work items that we might have involved here, then I got a backlog that's here. I can see from the connector icon that I'm actually connected to an Azure DevOps plan. And if I go to open this, the source of these items, these features and user stories and tasks, is actually coming from this particular Azure DevOps epic that's in here within Azure DevOps. And as we look at this, it's basically bringing in on a routine basis without the user having to intervene at all, being able to come in here and take these items that are identified in the support customers using mobile epic, and this is what's been brought over into OnePlan from that particular place in a synchronized fashion, rolling it into an overall portfolio management view. So that flexibility of multi-tool sets is something that we can look at. And I guess the last thing I'll show you is the idea, as we talked about, strategies and the ability to leverage OnePlan for not only strategy execution, the ability to have what we consider objectives and key results. And you can model this in ways that you want. But the idea, a common accepted method is objectives and key results, where the objectives is really the more of the strategy, and the key results are the tangible measures that you have to determine whether or not you're making progress towards achieving that strategy. And in this, you might have the strategies that you define. You might capture a time frame about those that you might want. You might even have a schedule or a work plan around that strategy. Or you might just capture the details around that strategy and basically say what the objectives are, what it is we want to do, and how these are related to different key results, or even related to different projects that you have in the organization. And the key is you can execute on this strategy right here within OnePlan, or you can also execute on it and align it with your project portfolio so you can understand which projects are supporting which strategies. So once again, we've shown you a lot here today, but I wanted to make sure we painted the vision. This is a vision webinar, and we wanted to make sure that you had all those dimensions captured. So with that, let's go into a summary and talk about some potential next steps you can take. So in summarization, Microsoft is in the process of reimagining Project and Project Online. The new Microsoft solution is indeed built on the Power Platform. The Microsoft PPM Accelerator was built by OnePlan Solutions, so we do have intimate knowledge of that, and so we know how to interact with it very well. The new project solution does not have full feature parity at this point with Project Online, so OnePlan plus the PPM Accelerator not only gives you the capabilities that you were used to having in Project Online, it goes beyond. It actually gives you more capabilities than you had in Project Online. And OnePlan as an organization, we can provide solutions and services to support you, make sure you have a successful transition and get the value and the outcomes that you're looking for. So, just a little solution comparison at a high level of the capabilities. You're going to get a copy of these slides and you can look at this in more detail, but the general message here is that Project for the Web with the Accelerator doesn't do everything that Project Online does, but combined with OnePlan, it goes and does that and more. Now, we at OnePlan are recognized as a leader. We have a lot of gold certifications from Microsoft, but our passion's in project and portfolio management. We were their last named Project and Portfolio Management Global Partner of the Year in 2021. We've won it multiple times, and so we're recognized for doing great things in this area, not only from an IP perspective, but for helping customers succeed. And we're also recognized by the folks at Gartner and Infotech and Scaled Agile Inc. So we're here to help you to whatever degree you'd like to be assisted, whether it be just standing up the technology or on the people and process side of these things as well. So if we look at moving from Project Online, you could look at the Project for the Web and Power Apps, and it has its pros. It's moving with the Microsoft vision, but it doesn't yet have full feature parity. And Project Operations is really built for a specific use case that may be different from traditional PPM needs, but it's definitely a viable solution for professional services organizations for sure. Built better together, if we look on the left here, Project for the Web, Power Apps with OnePlan, it not only aligns with Microsoft visions and not only gives people the capabilities they want today, it really extends beyond what they're used to having and gives them a full solution that they may want. Not that everybody needs to take advantage of every dimension of what I showed today, but the idea is people want to select a solution knowing that they can grow into those things if they want to, and also know that they're not going to hit limits of another tool that they might pick and have to be shopping for another tool even 2 years from now. We do have migration tooling working with our partner, PDMS, to have tooling to get from Project Online to the Project Power App. So be aware there is some automation there available and some migration planning. And what we do offer people is the opportunity to have us conduct a migration workshop for you, allow you to look at where you currently are, what you'd like to get to, and what it would take in the action plan of getting there and the mechanisms for getting that data from point A to point B, and possibly making the improvements and the modifications and the re-engineering you might want to do as you can improve what you're doing with the solution, rather than not just migrating something, verbatim as is, just because that's the way you used to have it. So please take advantage of that if you'd like to. Our next webinar is next Thursday, and we do webinars all the time. If you go to this URL, oneplan.ai/webinars, we have our upcoming webinars plus a large library of ones that we've done in the past on demand. So please feel free to look at those. But next week, we've got lessons learned from our customer journeys. We actually have real customer stories about using Microsoft Project Accelerator and OnePlan and how we've taken them there and what their objectives are and what they've taken advantage of there. And there's some unique cases there we'll talk about next week. If you want to get started, the PPM Accelerator, it does take some configuration. You do have to have access and rights to be able to do Power Apps in your organization, but you can actually go to either GitHub or you can go to AppSource and go to OnePlan's offering on this. And we can help you with this and give you some support on this. Or we even have an environment with one already set up that you can poke around and see what it does for you all by itself. So be aware that this is here if you want to kick the tires a little bit and take advantage of that. And we're happy to chaperone you a little bit on this as well. The same with OnePlan's capabilities. The adaptive project portfolio management with the multiple tool sets and the capabilities that I showed you here today with the OnePlan capabilities, that's available through OnePlan trial. We have different, use cases or templates, whether it be just strategic portfolio management, agile portfolio management, or professional services automation. So we're happy to assist you on that as well, but there are free trials available for you up on AppSource. Just search for OnePlan up on AppSource. Even if it's not just migration, if you're looking at getting into a tool like this, say you're coming off of spreadsheets or whatever it might be, we're happy to offer a free roadmap workshop for you to understand what your current use of tools are, where you'd like to get to, and what it might take and what a roadmap for that and what the cost might be. You might even own a lot of the licensing you already need on these things. So we're happy to discuss this with you so you can evaluate alternatives and approaches. So the free trials, the roadmap workshop or the migration workshop, and I gave you a high-level demo, and I covered a lot today, and I did it very quickly without a lot of depth. If you'd like to schedule a personalized one-on-one demo with us, just reach out to us at contact@oneplan.ai, and you can look out or just research more of what we have at oneplan.ai on our website. Feel free to reach out to us there. You can reach out to me individually if you care to. Just want to let you know that we're really appreciative of you being here and spending some of your valuable time with us here today. We try to do these things because we try to invest in success, and we are invested in our customer success. And we would really love to engage with you and help you do the same. So with that, I'd just like to say, OnePlan can help you provide one interface, one common experience, one plan that brings all this stuff together in a hub and really fulfills that vision that Microsoft's trying to provide. So with that, thank you and have a great day.